Can y'all reiterate your thoughts on Bonnie Blue for a second? Because I don't have a problem with her as an idea at all, but there seems to be like this weird hate against her, like I guess it's slut shaming. And also it seems to be like this weird like Christian Republican angle, like it's not pure, or like we have a porn sick society kind of thing going on.
We always want to blame women for like shit that men are doing, but like for me, it's like, to me, I'll be honest, she has dark energy. Like on paper, having sex with a bunch of men, I think that's fine. And maybe even like low key, not to get on too much of a soapbox, but I think it's like maybe even positive. It's like, yeah, if a bunch of men want to have sex and you want to too, and they're enjoying it and it's content, it's like everybody's having a happy, fun time. Why would that be a bad thing? But something about her energy seems very like she'll do anything for money. Her eyes just seem a little bit vacant. She's like fucking like motherfucker still in high school. The other girl, Lily Phillips, seems less dark energy, but she also seems younger and like maybe she's traumatizing herself. Okay, maybe, I don't know, but yeah.
You said we're blaming the men for it. I think it's like a collaborative effort. I think everybody is involved. There's consenting adults and everybody wants to be there. I see some tweets of like, how come all the men got masks and the women don't have masks? And my first thought was because the porn is about the woman. It's about her exploits of her being like this super promiscuous. It's a story being told. The men are just props. To me, in my opinion, because I'm so gooned out, I'm not seeing the men as men. I'm seeing the men as sex toys.
Dom is a true orator.
He be writing papers for sure. I know he had that written down.
Science, my nigga. Like I
5,000 words on the goon.
ChatGPT did that shit. Perplexity is
nah. That was a real researcher right there. He went to Gooniversity, like we said. You know what I'm saying?
I'm just gooned out. That's all.
He got his master's in Goonthropology. But this idea of men being just a sex toy and being like almost objectified in porn, I think I used to think that. And I think I kind of see where you're coming from, but going back to like film and like what is object, what is subject? Object is the thing being interacted with. Subject is the person who is doing the perceiving. And in porn, the person that doing the perceiving is more often than not the man. So the idea is the men wear masks. The viewer is meant to place themselves as from the perspective of the man. So by definition, they're the subject. And the female actress, she has a face because she's the object being viewed. So we're not trying to experience what is it to have 1,000 penises in you back to back. That's not what it is. It's what is it to be one of 1,000 men in this woman? What is it to experience her promiscuity, maybe her desire, but it's not made for women. Watch Ersties. Because Ersties does the same shit as this.
Who's Ersties?
Ersties is like a fucking production like a porn production company.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they do shit where it's like this is gang. Honestly, that's crazy that you knew that. But no, he's really on some artsy shit because that's some cosmopolitan European shit. You know what I'm saying? That's like the olive oil of porn. But they do gangbang shit. But you can tell that it's made to some extent for women to watch it.
To me, it feels like because they are sometimes shot kind of vlog-like. It's kind of like a day in the life of Bonnie Blue type beat.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
When I watched it, I've never imagined because I never gooned to, but I have watched it, which I'm gooned out. When I'm watching it, I'm not watching it from the perspective of like, oh, imagine one of those men. I don't think anybody who's watching that kind of like that sheer mass of men fucking women or watching themselves thinking, what if I was one of those men, is more so watching her being like, wow, she is so slutty and that's hot.
And I say that as somebody who I've definitely not these ones, but like I've watched, because they're not the first people to do this. I've definitely watched those videos, and it's what is it to be that guy? But it is you're right. You are consuming your perception of her desire. That is a big part of what it is.
It feels weird to me that people are like criticizing the way that they do. I've heard Unc FD talk about this a bunch, talk about how Gen Z is so sex negative. And that's an interesting concept to me. As an idea I never thought of because I'm such a whore. So I don't really see myself as a sex negative person or people I deal with as sex negative. But I'm curious about you guys' perspective on that.
I think what evidence is somebody citing for Gen Z being sex negative? Is it the fact that you have a relatively, because it's not that big, but a relatively versus other generations swath of Gen Z men that are not having sex? Is it based on their perceived conservatism? Like what's the metric of what that is? And the reason, and I'm framing the question like that because I feel like some of it is just perception versus the reality of what that looks like.
I do feel like a lot of it is like a combination of things because so many men are lonely and not having sex often, but also because so many women have been I saw a feminazi tweet this other day on the timeline. I call her feminazi because I went to her account and she was definitely like a kill all men. I was like, okay, this kind of person you are. But she said like the hypersexuality of women in media over the last like decade or so have like she has formulated that she thinks so many women have turned against that kind of way of going and are going more conservative. So I'm me personally, I'm not seeing it in my real life. I'm not meeting women who are less who are less willing to be sexually active, who are like turning down sex. But I'm always uncle isn't of this generation having that perception of somebody. I'm the oldest Gen Z, having that perception of that is interesting to me because I'm like, I don't see it.
I don't think that Gen Z is sex negative. I think you have a higher percentage of men that are Gen Z and younger that are, you know, less likely to have sex, not because they don't want to have sex. And I think that being sex negative means that you're selecting to not want to have sex because you don't want to, because of whatever belief. I don't think that's what's happening. I think that you have a lot of people that, for various reasons, that are social structural reasons, that they just aren't having sex at the same rate that, you know, even age versus age, right? So a Gen Z 19-year-old is less likely to have had sex than a millennial 19-year-old when they were 19, for example. So when you look at those kind of things, I don't think that's their sex negative. I think that they just don't have the social skills that prior generations had for structural reasons to have sex when they want to have sex. And I think that that is more of a thing for men than women. So when you look at the women, what I think is happening is you have a lot of women that are having sex with the upper echelon niggas in mass, right? So their sexual success is just heightened at the expense of the people that are the quote unquote the bottom niggas that can't have sex. But I don't think anybody wants to not have sex. I think it's the social skills, and you don't know how to open the door. You don't know how to have those questions. You don't know how to have those conversations. And there are very clear structural reasons why I think Gen Z and younger are at a disadvantage in that space versus millennials and up.
How much of that structural issue we talk about people not having the skills are due to like these people being chronically online or something like COVID where they were stuck in the house for so long? How much of that do you think affects it?
COVID was huge. And I was reading some I was going to say meta-analysis, but it actually wasn't that. It was actually tweets from somebody who was allegedly citing a meta-analysis. But it got me thinking about it, so I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just talking about my thoughts in regards to that. I think the impact of social media is muddy, and it's very hard to decipher exactly how that was done. But at every level of COVID, from a social structure perspective, on up, right? I'm talking about even like boomers to small children, COVID derailed social structure, right? So I definitely think that the COVID stuff is a little bit clearer. But in terms of social media, I think that we're still trying to tease out exactly how impactful it is. I'm not saying it's not impactful. It's just like the magnitude of the impact, we got to tease out a little bit. I think that's speculation. That's not study or anything. That's just my thought.
Potty mouth. Stop playing.
Well, hello, potty mouth.